Hello everyone, welcome to my update US Gossip channel. Kody Brown had weathered many storms in his life: family fractures, the collapse of 3 marriages, the Coyote Pass chaos, the loss of trust from nearly all his children, but nothing prepared him for the day he walked into the Flagstaff Superior Court and found his entire world cleaved open under fluorescent lights that seemed far too bright for the dark secret he and Robyn had hoped would stay hidden forever. It all began with a single document, an old will that supposedly belonged to a distant Brown relative named Nathaniel Brown, a man the family barely spoke about, a man whom Kody claimed left him and Robyn a substantial inheritance earmarked for the future unity of the Brown family. But rumors ripple across social media long before the hearing, whispers of inconsistencies, odd signatures, timelines that didn't align, and when Christine caught wind of it, after months of hearing Kody complain about finances while Robyn insisted they were barely scraping by, she brought it to Janelle, who examined the documents with an accountant friend and practically choked on her coffee when she realized the writing style, the pen pressure analysis, and even the phrasing in the supposed will matched Kody's handwriting, not Nathaniel's, and suddenly what began as mild suspicion snowballed into a legal avalanche when Mary, furious that she had once again been shut out of family dealings, marched the information to a lawyer who advised her that forging a will was a felony, especially when used to obtain financial benefits. By the time the Brown family gathered in the courtroom, the tension was so thick it felt like an extra person breathing in the room, and Kody's bravado, once loud and unshakable, now cracked at the edges as he leaned over to whisper to Robyn, who dabbed at her eyes with trembling fingers while glancing nervously at the judge, who had a look of stern curiosity carved into her features, and the gallery behind them buzzed with reporters, estranged cousins, and even a few sister wives superfans who had somehow managed to sneak into the hearing, eagerly waiting to see whether the once sprawling plural family would finally implode on legal record. Christine sat with her arms crossed, David Woolley at her side for support, his calm presence a stark contrast to the frenzy unraveling at the front of the courtroom, while Janelle arrived with Madison and Logan, determined to present every financial inconsistency she had logged over the past decade. Because if Kody and Robyn truly forged a will to divert money toward their own household, Janelle wanted the world to know she had tried, she had begged, she had pleaded for transparency, but had instead spent years watching resources funnel toward Robyn's children, Robyn's house, Robyn's endless emergencies, until Janelle finally realized she was done being quiet about the uneven weight she had carried alone. Mary, for once, did not shrink into the background. Instead, she sat upright, chin raised, eyes blazing with a sense of vindication that came from discovering the truth after being dismissed and belittled for so long. And when the judge called the hearing to order, the hush that fell over the room was electrifying, every heartbeat synchronized as the clerk read the charges aloud: potential will forgery, fraud, financial misappropriation, misuse of family funds under false pretenses, and presenting false legal documents for personal gain. Kody's jaw tightened, his eyes darting toward Robyn, silently begging her to stand strong with him, but Robyn's hands were shaking so badly that the tissue she held tore between her fingers, and Christine couldn't help but whisper to Janelle, "She knows she's caught," prompting Janelle to give a grim nod as the judge signaled for the prosecution to begin presenting their findings, starting with a handwriting analyst who compared the signatures on the supposed will with known samples of both Kody and Nathaniel's writing, and with each slide displayed on the courtroom monitor, it became excruciatingly clear that the loops, the slants, the pressure points, and even the flourish on Nathaniel's supposed signature belonged unmistakably to Kody. Reporters gasped, Robyn whimpered, and Kody's face flushed a deep shade of mortified crimson as the expert continued, explaining that not only was the handwriting a match, but the ink used on the will was a type no longer manufactured when Nathaniel had been alive, indicating the document was created years later, deepening the suspicion that Kody had fabricated the entire thing, perhaps believing no one would ever dig that deeply into old Brown family paperwork. Next came a digital forensics specialist who pulled metadata from scanned files on a laptop found in the home Kody shared with Robyn, and the timestamps revealed something that sent the courtroom buzzing again. The file had been created at 1:42 a.m. on a night when Kody claimed he had been traveling, but cell tower records placed him firmly in Flagstaff, not Las Vegas as he had previously insisted, and when the judge asked whether Kody wished to explain the discrepancy, he stammered through a shaky, incoherent statement that the document had merely been re-archived and that he had no memory of uploading anything. but the judge raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced, and Mary, unable to contain herself, let out a soft, bitter laugh that echoed eerily across the silent courtroom, prompting the bailiff to give her a warning glance. The prosecution then shifted its focus to Robyn, presenting a series of text messages she had sent to a cousin weeks before the will surfaced, messages in which Robyn complained about being backed into a financial corner and hinted that Kody's next move would save them, suggesting foreknowledge that something was about to happen involving money. Even more telling were the deleted messages retrieved from her phone. Backup, ones in which she asked Kody whether the wording sounded too formal and whether he thought anyone would notice the date difference, and the moment these messages were read aloud, Robyn's entire body froze, her tear-stained cheeks turning ghostly pale as murmurs erupted among the onlookers. Christine, unable to resist, leaned toward David and whispered, "There it is," the truth finally shining through, while Janelle pressed her lips together, torn between heartbreak that the family had come to this and satisfaction that accountability was finally in motion. But the most explosive moment came when the defense called Kody to testify, and though he walked to the stand with his shoulders squared, his voice trembled with every answer he gave, dodging direct questions, insisting the will was real, claiming that Nathaniel had always favored him, even suggesting that the other wives were conspiring against him out of jealousy and resentment, which caused Janelle to scoff, Mary to roll her eyes so dramatically it earned another warning, and Christine to mutter under her breath, "Classic Kody," deflect, blame, deny, until the judge firmly instructed everyone to remain silent. Kody's unraveling accelerated when the prosecution produced a witness no one expected, Nathaniel's longtime friend, who swore under oath that Nathaniel had died without a will, had left no instructions for his estate, and had certainly not given Kody anything resembling an inheritance, because as the man bluntly stated, he barely liked Kody, and the courtroom erupted into barely suppressed laughter, even the judge cracking a rare smile before restoring order. By the time Robyn took the stand, she was visibly shaking, her voice quivering as she insisted she had only believed what Kody told her, that she never meant to deceive anyone. But the prosecution showed evidence she had signed bank documents acknowledging receipt of funds tied to the forged will, making her plea of ignorance fall flat. Under pressure, in a trembling voice, Robyn finally admitted that she had helped format the document, claiming she thought it was just a draft of something legitimate and had trusted Kody completely, a statement that sent a ripple across the courtroom as Christine whispered to Janelle, "There it is, she's distancing herself," while Kody's head snapped toward Robyn, betrayal and fury etched across his face. With the courtroom closing arguments approaching, the family sat divided more than ever. Janelle's children glared at Kody with a mix of disappointment and disgust. Mary sat frozen in disbelief. Christine held David's hand tightly, grateful that she had escaped the chaos before it reached this fever pitch, while Robyn sobbed quietly, realizing that the image she had tried so desperately to maintain, that she was merely the obedient, misunderstood wife, was shattered, replaced by the truth that she had been complicit in the most serious scandal the family had ever faced. The judge, in a voice steady as thunder, announced that due to the overwhelming evidence, the case would move forward to a full criminal trial, and as the gavel struck, chaos erupted, reporters shouting questions, fans crying out in shock, Kody shaking his head violently as if trying to deny reality itself, Robyn burying her face in her hands while Mary, Janelle, and Christine watched with a mixture of vindication and sorrow, knowing that whatever little remained of the Brown family bond had disintegrated in that courtroom like ash in the wind. And as Kody and Robyn were escorted out under the scrutiny of flashing cameras and a nation ravenous for updates on the now infamous sister-wives forgery scandal, one truth settled heavily over everyone present: the family was not just fractured, not just divided, it was permanently broken, and no amount of excuses, tears, or desperate apologies could ever piece together the shards left behind by the forged will scandal that exposed, once and for all, the darkest secret Kody and Robyn had ever tried to hide. As the courtroom emptied and the weight of the judge's ruling settled like a suffocating fog over the once mighty Brown family, the aftershocks spread through Flagstaff, Las Vegas, Utah, and beyond, reaching every corner of the sister-wives fandom that had followed the Browns for years. Social media exploded with theories, leaked screenshots, unverified insider tips, and old footage resurfaced of moments that now seemed prophetic. Clips of Kody lecturing his ex-wives about trust, Robyn insisting on transparency, Mary crying over being left out, Janelle quietly questioning finances, Christine bluntly pointing out favoritism, all of which had once felt like typical family drama, but now looked like flashing warning signs that viewers had somehow missed. Meanwhile, Kody and Robyn weren't allowed to return home immediately as investigators obtained a search warrant, swarming their Flagstaff property, confiscating electronics, hard drives, notebooks, printers, and even stacks of old mail, while neighbors watched from their porches in shock as the patriarch who once strutted around with unshakable authority now stood on his doorstep looking hollow, defeated, and visibly panicked, especially when one investigator pulled a small lockbox from the top shelf of his office, the very lockbox Kody claimed contained only spiritual documents, though whispers traveled fast once people overheard phrases like financial ledger, inconsistent earnings, and sealed envelopes with unreported cash. Robyn, wrapped in a blanket and trembling violently, tried to call her mother but could barely form words between sobs, truly realizing for the first time that this wasn't another televised family argument or public misunderstanding that she could smooth over with a tearful confessional. This was a legal nightmare, one with consequences that could include prison time, restitution, and the permanent destruction of everything she had built alongside Kody. Across town, Christine and Janelle gathered together with their older children, watching live news updates as experts speculated about potential charges, and although they knew the situation was tragic, they couldn't deny the small flicker of validation burning in their chests. After years of being dismissed as dramatic, jealous, or unreasonable, the truth had finally come out in a way that proved their concerns hadn't been baseless complaints but